well as the as well as the Simmons REEF Support Center. I'm going to just go over a few housekeeping items before we dive right into the presentation. The first is that this webinar is being recorded, which you just heard. If you typically, what is recorded is the person speaking, and any comments that are questions that are chatted in. So, but if you don't mind, you are welcome to obviously write in, but just know that if you don't want to be recorded. So there'll be at the end of the presentation, we're actually going to address everyone's questions. So we're gonna go through the content. And we'll do some slides, and then we'll make room for the second half of the presentation. Will be a student panel. So we have graduate students representing a number of different programs across the university, and they're going to give you their insider tips and tricks of how they're navigating Boston as a graduate student. And we're going to preserve some time at the end for you all to ask questions, as well as to address those questions that were chatted in during the presentation. So I'm just going to allow my colleagues on the graduate admissions to quickly share their names and their roles, and you will see more of them throughout the presentation. So let's start with you, Dana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dana Bradstreet, she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Graduate Admission for the School of Library and Information Science and the Gwen Ifill College. Thanks for joining us.
Caitlin, you want to go next?
Sure. Good evening or afternoon, everybody. My name is Caitlin Bauer. I am the Associate Director of Graduate Admission for School of Nursing and School of Science and Health Professions. And very glad that you're all here tonight. Welcome.
And Ivy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ivy Noonan. I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions for SLIS and Eiffel. I'm happy to be here with all of you this evening.
And then we also have a member of the REEF Student Support Center. So Kate.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kate. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of the student support specialists at the REEF Center this year, and I'm also a current MSW student at Simmons. Nice to see everyone.
Awesome. So as I mentioned, feel free to put any questions as they come up during the presentation. We'll tackle them at the end. And before we get started, it's always fun just to see where everyone is joining us from. So if you take a moment and just chat in where you're calling, or not calling from, but zooming in from, that would be great. And then I will hand things off to my colleague, Dana. Wow, Florida. I can't even keep track. They're coming in so quick. California, a few Californias. Cambridge, Massachusetts, just down the street. Connecticut, Tennessee, Florida, they're coming in fast. But we have great representation from, looks like, across the country. I didn't catch, I'm going to go back. There might be some international folks here as well. So wherever you are joining us from, welcome, welcome. We hope to give you a nice understanding of the city of Boston and what it's like to be a graduate student here. And I will hand it over to Dana at this point.
All right, thanks so much, Laura. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the city itself, especially for those of you who've never been here. It's a really exciting place to do your graduate studies. It's a really exciting place to live. There's more than 60 colleges in Greater Boston, so we're really the center of higher ed, and I think the top college town in the country. We are a global leader in innovation and research. So regardless of your program, as a student, you'd have the opportunity to be at the forefront of groundbreaking developments while also enjoying access to cutting edge technologies and advancement in your field. Boston is a really rich community. We're one city, but we're also a city of neighborhoods. We're vast, we're interconnected. There's lots of vibrant art scenes, historical landmarks. I just went on Friday to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, which is right next door to the Simmons campus and free with your Simmons ID. Boston Public Garden, Museum of Fine Arts. I could go on and on and on about how amazing we are in cultural experiences. And then finally, there's a lot of great experiential learning and networking available. We have lots of partnerships. We collaborate with other universities and outside organizations and employers. So you'll have really a lot of unique opportunities to network with professionals and with mentors in your field. Now I have here some examples of experiential learning options, and these are just a handful of the many opportunities that you'll see and have access to across all of the programs here at Simmons. First, I'd like to talk about the health sciences. We are right in the Longwood medical area, which has some of the top hospitals and research centers, not in just the country, but in the world. So places like Massachusetts General Hospital, Brigham and Women's Hospital, where I used to work, Boston Children's Hospital, DFCI, the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And we have, of course, many of our health science students getting their experiences there, but also many of our social work students will do their practicums there. And speaking of social work, again, lots of schools, lots of government organizations, different nonprofits, all these opportunities to get your field work done. Many cultural institutions and libraries. I did give a little plug for the Gardner next door, but again, the JFK Presidential Library, the Boston Public Library, the Boston Athenaeum, lots of places where our School of Library and Information Science students can get some hands-on experience. And then, of course, our students in the Gwen Ifill School, which has our Media, Humanities, and Social Sciences programs. You might be working for a state legislator in the State House, or maybe you are a children's literature student working for the Horn Book, which is one of the premier publications related to children's literature, and their staff is almost entirely Simmons alum. So a lot of fantastic opportunities and partnerships here in the city. All right, as I alluded to earlier, we're very much a city of neighborhoods, and you can see on this slide here the breakdown of where we are, and we'll zoom in just a minute. But it's really a lot bigger than just downtown Boston. And you'll also see these surrounding communities again with many internship, practicum, clinical experiences as well right nearby. So Simmons specifically is located in the Fenway. We do have a lot of students living, of course, in Boston, but also some of these surrounding neighborhoods like Allston Brighton. We have a lot of students in Jamaica Plain, which is kind of the neighborhood next door to us. And we also have students who take the Green Line, live up in Somerville, and we'll talk about the transportation in just a few minutes. We're going to post some links in the chat, including the Simmons Outdoor Guide to Boston and the Simmons Just Guide to Boston, but you can see these links right here. Again, we will put them in the chat for you. So I encourage you to bookmark those, take your time, and go through them after the presentation tonight. All right, so we're going to zoom in specifically on the Fenway. As I mentioned earlier, we're right in the Longwood medical area. We're in the Fenway neighborhood. Of course, Fenway Park, where the Boston Red Sox play, is very, very close to campus. If there's a game happening, you could just see the energy walking around the area. We have the Gardner and the Museum of Fine Arts, both of those, again, free with your Simmons ID. You can walk to those places. You can walk to the hospitals over at the Longwood medical area. And of course, we have some of these other resources here like Target and Whole Foods, where if you need to get supplies, again, those are very close by. So next you'll hear from my colleague Caitlin about getting to and around the city by learning about the MBTA. Take it away, Caitlin.
All right, thank you, Dana. Okay, so the MBTA, or as we call it here, the T for short, is our very comprehensive public transit system in the greater Boston area. It actually reaches nearly 200 of the 351 towns and cities in Massachusetts. If that gives you an idea of its reach, so the MBTA comprises the subway system, which is what you mainly see on the map on your screen. Also an extremely extensive bus and commuter rail network. So our bus and commuter rail networks go even further than the subway. Commuter rail goes all the way out west as far as Fitchburg and Worcester, north up to Salem and Newburyport, and south even as far down as Providence. Commuter rail actually had another line extension open just last week down to the South Coast area. So it's extremely easy to get around on the T. And students at Simmons have access to a semester pass for the entire MBTA system, depending on whether you need commuter rail, subway, bus, and those passes are available to students at an 11% discount through Simmons. The MBTA also has the option of applying for an income eligible reduced fare pass. And we will also put some information with the student guides in the chat as well. And this is another opportunity to get an MBTA pass, and sometimes it may be even less expensive than with the student semester pass. So you can see the map is quite comprehensive. Some of our lines have several different branches, including the Green Line, which is closest to us. We are near several stops on the Green Line, which I'll get into on the next slide momentarily. We are also less than a mile from the Lansdowne stop on the commuter rail and about a half-mile walk from Ruggles on the Orange Line. And there's also a shuttle through the Longwood Collective that is available to Simmons students from Ruggles to campus. And the Longwood Collective, it's a group of other academic and medical institutions in the Longwood area. Next, I just want to show you a little bit of a zoom in. So this is where we are specifically in relation to the large MBTA map. You can reach Simmons via the Green Line. If you take the E branch, we are a mere hop, skip, and a jump from the Museum of Fine Arts and the Longwood Medical Area stops. And we are also very close to the Fenway stop on the D branch. So it's extremely easy to get to campus via public transits, bus, commuter rail, subway, whichever method works best for you. And if you are a cyclist or an aspiring cyclist, Boston is also home, the greater Boston area is home to several different blue bike stations. There are about 480 different blue bike stations in the Boston and surrounding areas, and over 4,500 bikes total. So you don't even need to have your own, just come with your membership. You can do either a weekly membership, a monthly membership, or just pay by the ride for a blue bike to get from one place to the other. And we do have a stop that is right, station for blue bikes that is right next to Simmons. So if this is the time where you thought, I think I might want to try to take up cycling, you have a great option for navigating around Boston and around Simmons. Now, I know one of the big things that a lot of you are probably thinking about is meeting up with some other incoming sharks, incoming graduate students, and especially if you're going to be looking for roommates. Housing in Boston really starts kind of heating up, looking for an apartment, especially in May and June for September 1st move-in date. So for students who have submitted their enrollment deposit in your applicant portal, you should now see a Connect with Classmates tab. So again, this is available to students who have submitted their deposit. And it's really simple. All you have to do is go submit some information, how you prefer to be contacted, and you can get connected with other students from your program cohort, or just any other new graduate student starting at Simmons, this upcoming term. So it's a really great opportunity to kind of foster those connections and, again, find some roommates and start your housing search. So with that, I am going to turn things over to Kate from REEF.
Hey everyone. I know this information, it can be overwhelming. I was in your shoes not too long ago, just about a year ago, so I really do understand that. I wanted to share a little bit about our support center on campus and some of the resources that we offer. So we in the REEF like to call it the place to go when you're stuck. It's kind of a really good jumping off point if you're like, oh, geez, I need help with anything under the sun, food access, housing, basic needs, commuter services, getting connected to your community, whatever that may be. We're kind of the jumping off point. We hold a lot of, these are all some of the resources that we hold physically in the reef that we can offer. And then we have a lot of partners and coalitions that we are also parts of, that, make it even easier to connect to resources. Some of the ones that I really want to highlight are our food access resources. Food costs continue to rise, and being a grad student is in itself can be really expensive. So, in order to kind of mitigate some of those costs, we have a pretty robust community resource room, which is essentially a room full of shelf-stable goods. And as a grad student, you will be able, there's no eligibility access other than being a student at Simmons to get monthly orders into this to just kind of fill in some gaps. As well as we support students in applying for SNAP and other public assistance resources once you become a Mass resident. And we also have something called our guest meal swipe bank, which is really awesome. Students who are on dining plans and don't use all their swipes can donate them to the bank, and then you can use their swipes and at any of the dining halls on campus, even if you don't have a meal plan. So a lot of filling in gaps and creative problem solving, and we are really here to do all of those things for you. Our email is right there, reef@simmons.edu. That's the best way to contact us if you have questions about any of these things or any of the things I mentioned moving forward. Awesome. Okay, so one of the biggest things I want to highlight is our off-campus housing website. You have access to this even if you don't have your Simmons email yet. That REEF email that I just mentioned, the reason that that's so important is because you're going to email reef@simmons.edu and say, hey, I'm an incoming grad. Can I get the access code? We'll give you an access code and you'll be able to make a profile on this off-campus housing website. What's so awesome about it is that it has students from all over the Boston area through all the different schools in the Fenway and throughout the Boston area who are looking for roommates. And they'll talk a little bit about their study habits, where are they living. It might be someone who's, just looking to join with you, or there are posts that are also like, hey, we're, 3 friends and we have a 4th room open. It's kind of a combination of that. So we really, really encourage you to make profiles on this off-campus website. It also is directly connected to apartments.com and Zillow, and kind of puts all of those housing search places in one place, because I know that can be so overwhelming to be like, oh my goodness, where do I even start? Finding all these. So this is really kind of your one-stop shop to find listings, find a roommate, and then it also gives you some really helpful tips and tricks on what to look for in a lease, how to avoid getting scams, because unfortunately that can happen, but we have all the tools so that that doesn't happen. What is subletting? How does that work? Any of those kind of tips and tricks that you may need to, be as successful as possible. And then something else that I wanted to highlight that, again, you can access by emailing reef@simmons.edu is that we have a really robust network of Facebook groups and other kind of alternative housing options. A lot of folks have had a lot of success joining Facebook groups and connecting with people to find roommates and open housing as well. So if you do have Facebook and you're comfortable doing that, we highly recommend that as an option as well. I know housing can be really overwhelming. Like I said, it wasn't too long ago that I was in your shoes, so I really understand how overwhelming that could be. But hopefully that these, things can really, really support and help make that search just a little bit easier. Awesome. And I got one more. Awesome. So this last thing that I really wanted to highlight, because it's super cool and it just got a huge revamp this year. So as incoming students, you will get to use it in its full potential, is our Student Assistance Program, or also known as the SAP or the SAP. This is a super cool kind of one-stop shop platform. So it has legal services. It has money budgeting services. You can receive counseling. There's kind of any of those things you may need. You have access to this on the student assistance program. One of the biggest things that we see is students using the legal advice. You get free 30 minutes to like look over leases, which is why we share it after the housing. Things like that. If you maybe received a contract, you want someone to look it over, having that free 30 minutes from a licensed attorney who knows what they're talking about, to be able to help you with any of those things and kind of ease that transition into Boston. This is a great place to do that, as well as connect with mental health services. You can find either speak with a clinician right away on the SAP, and then it will also help connect you to providers who take your insurance or their payments fit in your budget. So this is unfortunately, you will have to wait till you receive your Simmons email to access this service, but it's something to look forward to. And as you start your journey on campus and you start to identify some of the resources that you may need, this is a really great place to go to get some of that support. It also helps with budgeting. You can do money planning within here. So it's a super awesome service. And if you ever are trying to access it and you need some assistance at the Reef, like I said, we're able to kind of help you navigate this website and anything else. Because like I said at the beginning, it's the place to go when you're stuck. And I will be on to answer any more questions later on if folks have them. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kate, and thank you to my other colleagues for a really helpful presentation. We are going to dive right into the student panel, and we have representation from across the university from multiple graduate programs. Before we do that, we'd love to see what programs you're interested in. So I know we have some students that are still finishing up their applications, some who've been admitted, and some who've already submitted their enrollment deposit and just can't wait to come. And by the way, I know Kate just mentioned you need your Simmons email. You'll be getting instructions at some point during the month of April, which again is in plenty of time for you to be able to set up your account and get registered for classes in June. So without further ado, we're just going to put up a quick poll, and if you could tell us which of the Simmons graduate programs are you interested in, that would be great. We have so many, I can't see all the responses coming in, but definitely see nursing, behavior analysis, nutrition, social work, physical therapy, library and information science, some of the dual degree students. So we see a nice representation from a lot of our programs. Well, great. And we will see the same on our student panel. So this is really a treat because we've pulled together some of our students at different places in their journey and different programs with different housing situations, some from afar and some from the area, and they're just going to provide you insider tips, and then we'll save some time for you to ask them some questions too. I think it would be great if we could take down the student panel presentation so we can see people's faces a little bit better. And I'm going to ask, if you are not a panelist, if you wouldn't mind just turning your camera off so that we can really focus on our panel. And I'll call on folks. I'll just go down my list. If you could just share briefly your name, the program you're in, and your hometown, state, or country if you're from abroad. So we'll start with you, Gianna.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Gianna. I'm in the Masters of Science in Nutrition and Health Promotion with the dietetic internship as well. I'm currently finishing out my first year, so I'll do the internship next semester. I saw some of you are from California. I'm also from California, specifically northern area, San Jose, if you guys know that. And then I think, did I hit everything that you asked? I'm like, I already
You
blanked.
did, and we'll definitely hear more from you when we ask some questions. So thank you, Gianna. Next up, Sophie.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I'm Sophie. I'm in my second semester of the Library Sciences program. I'm originally from Maine, so I've been up in the Northeast for quite a while, and I currently live in Cambridge.
Excellent. Jarrell.
Hey everyone, my name is Jarrell. I'm in semester 8 of 9 out of the DE, F, and P program here at Simmons. I live in Braintree, Massachusetts.
And Jarrell, can you translate the letters for people outside of the
Oh,
nursing?
yes, yes. So I am in the direct entry family and nurse practitioner program at Simmons.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Melanie.
Hi, I'm in the Masters of Social Work program. I'm in the trauma certificate, and it's my last semester, so I'll be graduating in May. And I'm from Brockton. So, thank
Excellent.
you.
Kate.
Yeah, so I just spoke to most of you, but I'm Kate. I use she, her pronouns. I'm originally from New Hampshire, so not too far, just our northern neighbor, and I live in Jamaica Plain, just the neighborhood right next to where we are in Fenway.
And you told us your program before, but for those who
Oh,
joined late,
yes, I am a first year MSW, which is the Masters of Social Work student, just like Melanie.
awesome. And Ivy.
Hi everyone. If you joined a little late, no worries. My name is Ivy. I am a alum of the Library Science Dual Archives and History program. I graduated about 2 years ago. And while I was in the program, I lived in Brighton, Alston, and Watertown, and I moved from Western Massachusetts.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to get started. And I know that some folks in the audience are just getting started on their housing search. They may be moving, like Gianna mentioned, across the country. And so I'd love to hear, and we can just take turns and, maybe have 2 or 3 people answer each question. So I'll let you come off your mic, and that'll signal to the panel that you're kind of ready to offer up your thoughts. But I'd like to hear, how did you get started on your housing search? Did that involve looking for roommates, or were you looking to live independently? And if you're local, you can share that as well.
I can kind of start off just because I was coming from, well, I went to undergrad in Indiana, but I was coming from California, I guess originally. So what I did feel like I started really early in the search, and I feel like I wasn't aware of all the resources that just got talked about. So I think those are really important and should be utilized. But I primarily joined Facebook group chats, and I'd be more than happy to share them. But there were some amazing Facebook group chats out there where I was trying to seek meeting people to live with. And ultimately, I did end up I live in Fenway also. I didn't mention that before, but I do live on my own in Fenway, but I was seeking out trying to find roommates, and I utilized the Facebook group chats primarily. And those were amazing. People were posting in them all the time from some people just doing school, or some people also just trying to kind of like navigate like their new job in the area.
I can share my search. I'm from New Hampshire, but I was living in Western Mass, and I moved out into Boston really quickly. And so I moved into a place that I had never seen, which I remember feeling really anxious about. But it ended up working out. I love where I live. I live in Jamaica Plain, which is kind of just underneath Fenway, so it's super accessible. I take about a 20-minute bus, which you really can't get better than that, and it drops me off maybe a 4-minute walk from campus. I had a lot of success looking in the Facebook groups, and also looking on apartments.com and Zillow and all that stuff. My advice would be that you do have to move quickly. I don't know if any of the other folks on the panel experience that, but if you find a place that you like, it seems to work for you, take it. Because things move fast since it is a city, and there's lots of people trying to find housing. So my advice would be to just go with your gut and move quickly.
All right. I'm sure we'll come back to to you all, so thank you. But let's see if maybe one of our other panelists has any advice on public transportation in Boston. So if you use public transportation, we just heard that Kate utilized a bus, but anybody else use public transportation and want to share that?
Yeah, I can speak on this. So I live in Braintree, like I said, which is a suburb around Boston. It's about like a 25-minute drive, but with all the traffic, it's much worse than that. So oftentimes I utilize the Red Line, which is a train that goes from like Boston into the suburb area. There's also like the commuter rail as well, and the Green Line. So the T is definitely available to students to use, and it takes you pretty close to Simmons University as well. So that's helpful. On days that I don't do that, I have a car as well, so I kind of trade off between the car and the T.
Can you tell us about parking at Simmons?
I can. So parking at Simmons is great actually. There's a parking garage right underneath the building. It's parking. It's always accessible. You can either get like a prepaid plan and like buy ahead of time a certain amount of certain amount of dollars, I guess you could say, or you can kind of go as you can pay as you go. And each time you go in, you swipe your badge in there, and then depending on how long you're there for, you pay a certain amount of money. I personally do the second one. I just kind of pay as I go because I'm not always on campus. But there's definitely a lot of options there.
I can go. I'm from Brockton, so it's about like 30 minutes by car, but I take the commuter rail. So I hop on the commuter rail. I usually get off at JFK. It's like a station in between like the city, and then I catch like it's like a blue shuttle bus that goes around like the area, like the Longwood area where our school is, and it drops relatively like close to the like probably like 5 minutes, so you can walk. And that one's free for students and like workers that work around the Fenway area. My experience on the commuter rail has been good. Some delays, but for the most part, it's a reliable transportation to take. So, and there's discounts for students as well. So.
Ivy, you want to tell us a little bit about back in your student days? Now, Ivy is a senior assistant director of graduate admission for our team, but back in your student days, Alston and Brighton is a very popular location. Can you tell us a little bit about how you would get to campus as a student?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely adored living in Brighton, Alston. I felt like there was always something to do. It's a very like urban populated area and there's lots of colleges around. Fortunately, where I lived with access to the B, C, and D line. So I had my pick of which one I wanted to take during the day. I also was able to use I believe it was the 65 bus that went by my apartment. So I would take that and it would be about a 10-minute walk to campus. And then if I wanted to take the Green Line, I would usually take the D line to campus, which was a little bit of a farther walk from me, but it was kind of the easiest way, and it was about a 20-minute walk. But it was very, very convenient. It was really direct. I really liked having being able just to kind of use like one bus line or one train line, which was really great. And so that was one of the reasons why I really loved living in that area.
Great. That is a great segue into our next topic, which is the different neighborhoods in Boston. So we heard a little bit about just little touches from people. We just heard a lot of actually about Alston Brighton from Ivy, but if you would like to share a little bit more about your neighborhood or other neighborhoods, if you're familiar with Boston and you've been here for a while, you want to share a little bit more about neighborhoods where we tend to see a lot of graduate students, that would be welcome as well.
I can kind of talk on this a little bit. I've lived in Boston for 3 years now, and this is my first year as a grad student, and I've lived in a couple different neighborhoods. So I spent the first 2 years in Southie, which I would say is not a ton of grad students. It's more like post-grad, undergrad. And I currently live in Cambridge, where there are a lot of graduate students, a lot from Harvard and MIT and other surrounding areas, but definitely I know several of my SLIS classmates live here as well and live in Somerville, which is just a little bit further down. And it's a great area. I love it so much. There's so much to do here. It's its own part of the city, and that's like one of my favorite parts of Boston is it's so small, it's so walkable, and you're in like a new area every like couple miles that you go. I also have a lot of friends who live in Allston, Brighton, and I'm there all the time, and that's a really like great place to go and visit. So I would say basically you can explore a ton of different neighborhoods as you're doing your apartment search. There's a ton of transit options. I would recommend using the T's website and like the transit app to kind of like map out different routes that it would take to get to campus if that's something you're concerned about. But I take the bus from Cambridge frequently and it's really easy, especially in like non-rush hour times.
I love living in Jamaica Plain. We call it JP. That's how people will mostly refer to it. One of my favorite things about JP is one, how close it is to campus, and two, how much green space there is. Harvard owns something called the Arnold Arboretum, which is several acres of like beautiful gardens and walking trails, and it's super well maintained, free to access at all times. And so I love living near the Arboretum. It's so nice to be so easy to get into the city and then also to have that huge plug of green space. I have several of my classmates who live within a 10-minute walk to me. I think that's the beautiful thing about JP is that it is a little bit of a smaller neighborhood. So I can walk to most places within 20 minutes that I want to go. And so I love living in JP. I think that it's relatively reasonably priced, easy to access campus, and lots of green space. So big plug. I think it's the best.
So I want to encourage folks to, if you're thinking about Boston or Cambridge and Somerville, which are their own small cities, definitely those are great choices. But if you are also interested in living outside of the city in a suburb, or even we have some students that live in Providence, Rhode Island, and take the commuter rail up. So you do not need to live right in Boston. As you heard from Melanie and Jarrell, there's plenty of public transportation that gets you into the city if you are living in a surrounding town or city. Don't feel constrained. All right, let's move on because I want to make sure that we're saving some time for your questions, and I see a lot of them coming in. So what is the best part, especially for those of you who have relocated? What's the best part of living in this area, Boston or the surrounding towns and cities?
I think for me, this is kind of more nursing specific, but as we all know, like the Northeast has like access to amazing hospitals, and us being in Boston, having clinicals, we have Dana-Farber and Mass General and all the great hospitals that are like right there, very accessible. So for me, it's just like I'm in a great spot where I know I'm going to get like the best experience possible. Besides that, I just love Boston in general. There's plenty of things to do. But when it's not freezing cold, it does get pretty cold here. But other than that, it's a good place to be.
I feel like mine is a little bit similar. Also, just coming from California, I did live in Indiana for undergrad, so I'm used to seasons, but I feel like it's amazing having actual seasons. If you're from California, we don't really get seasons that often. So that to me is absolutely amazing. And then just the amount of things to do and the how there's always people out on like nice days and even on cold days, you still see so many people. And as well, kind of talking like my internship, there's a lot of places to do my internship around the Boston area. So that kind of makes it amazing also.
I kind of touched on this earlier, but it's an incredibly walkable city. It's so easy to see so much. Really, even just like if you want to go wander around for a day after class, you can see so many cool things that are within a 20-minute walking distance of campus, which is so cool and so like lucky that we're able to have access to all of those things. And it's just a great free activity to do too if you're looking to not spend a lot of money. Like you can walk down to the gardens, to the common, walk along the river. There's just like such stunning scenery everywhere.
And as a commuter coming from Brockton, I just like everyone says, like there's a lot to do, and like if you just need like a bite to eat, there's so many places like you can eat, and like the library, you can go to the library and just like study and like go back home if you need be. So there's a lot of food places and cafes. So
Awesome. And Melanie, you're making me hungry hearing about all those restaurants. But maybe what we could do, because I see so many questions coming in from the panelists, I will let you think about if there's one tidbit or pearl of wisdom that you'd like to pass on to folks who are starting their housing and or roommate search. One thing that you wish you knew. So I'll open that up and then we'll shift gears and my colleagues will start to read some of the questions that have come through.
You should feel really comfortable asking for like a video walkthrough of apartments that you're interested in applying to. A lot of people already have them pre-recorded, especially if you're looking in a Facebook group and you want to get to know the people you might be living with better, to ask for like a FaceTime walkthrough, that kind of thing. Most people are incredibly accommodating and they understand, especially if you're coming from far away, that you want to get a sense of the space before you commit to like a financial agreement. So I would definitely recommend advocating for yourself in that way and asking for photos and videos and walkthroughs.
I definitely second that. I've definitely done a couple Zoom tours of my Brighton apartment before for folks. My other tidbit was also plugging in the apartment location as of like where it is in regards to like school or any other like a job or anything else important kind of in the Boston area. That's what I did when I was looking at apartments. When I was like, still considering different sites, it's really helpful to kind of going into it to have an idea of where it's located in relation to anything else and the ease of transport in between.
I would definitely say put yourself out there. I know I posted stuff on the Facebook pages, which sometimes was really intimidating, but it kind of made me meet a lot of people. Though I did end up living by myself, it's just what ended up happening. But I still met so many people on those Facebook group chats that I still see today. And as somebody who, like Sophie was saying, I did come out of state. And so getting those FaceTime and those video tours, that was really important. I did have a broker, which I know someone has a question in here that we'll get to around that as well. But for being an out-of-state person, that was honestly really important since I was never going to see the place in person.
Any more words of wisdom before we move on to the many questions that have come in? All right, so I will have Caitlin lead us off.
Okay, sorry, a couple technical difficulties there. Okay, so lots of housing questions. So I'm going to try and condense them a little bit. And Sophie, I'd actually like to kick this over to you since you came from a little further away. What do you, how did you begin to kind of narrow down your neighborhood search? And what was your experience like in terms of the financial aspect of looking for an apartment in Boston, in terms of broker fees, different management firms, and things like that, that students can especially connect with from out of state?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't come from too far, but I was in a different state as I was looking for things. So I basically connected with everyone I knew that had connections in Boston. I was asking around, trying to find connections, trying to find a roommate. I did move here before I started my graduate program, so I've lived with the same roommate for 3 years now into my graduate program, but we have moved every year, which is such a hassle and definitely expensive, but um I've managed to find apartments in a lot of different unique situations. We found them really last minute. We found them well in advance. I would say if you're looking to avoid paying a broker fee, a great way to do that is to try and enter on a pre-existing lease. So connecting with people via these Facebook groups, it will, like Gianna was saying, mean putting yourself out there a lot. But that is probably the best way to avoid that. Most places in Boston, as you're looking, will require you to pay a broker fee, and you should feel really comfortable asking your agent to kind of work on your behalf. I know there's like a lot of misconceptions about how that process works, especially in Boston specifically, but you should feel like you can ask people to be like doing things for you, looking for things for you if you're paying them that fee. And if you're trying to avoid that, definitely look on Facebook and start talking to people who already have kind of lease situations, and everyone always has one roommate who's moving out and they're looking for someone to fill in. So just kind of work with either stranger connections or family friend connections, whatever you can do to get yourself started in your search.
Thank you. I'm seeing some questions about moving. How early would you suggest moving to Boston? Can anyone speak to, like, did you move in on September 1st, a different time? How did that work?
I moved in on July 1st. It's not as common to get a lease starting date that maybe isn't September 1st. That's kind of like the day to move. You'll see when you come. All the stuff like everywhere. It's like it's a big thing. It's kind of exciting. It's like free dumpster diving, I feel like, because everybody just leaves stuff that they don't want. And so it's kind of crazy, but that's kind of the main day that everybody moves in, and that's when a lot of the leases start. But since I was coming from out of state and I hadn't really ever been to Boston, July 1st worked really well for me just because I got to know the area before. But I know that's not as easy for everybody to do, and it might be harder to find a lease that starts maybe that early and not September 1st, but I highly recommend if you can.
Just
I had some success finding June 1st leases, which I think it's like September's the most common, and then you do find some June to June. So that can work for folks as well.
Yeah, I have a June to May lease right now, and it works out pretty well. It's pretty great. I also will say, just because September 1st is a very busy moving day, go into it knowing that it will be very busy depending on where you're moving into, because everyone else is also moving in September 1st. I can do the next question.
You're on the panel, so maybe
Okay.
we can have Caitlin serve one up. Thank you.
Absolutely. I guess Jarrell, I want to kick this one over to you. Can you talk a little bit about, the a balance of, work, school, social life? What is that like for you?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but you have to find that balance that works for you, is what I realize. Grad school is hard no matter what program you're in, but you have to be able to like prioritize school, but also your own mental health and your family and your friends and everything. People do it differently, some people plan really far in advance. To be honest, I don't. I live day by day. It's horrible, but yeah, it's certainly difficult, but it's certainly doable at the same time. But for me, like with clinicals and everything, I'm kind of balancing clinical with schoolwork, with my actual nursing job and things like that. But I've found like what works for me is kind of just like making sure I make time for every single thing in my life. Whether it just be a few minutes, just to kind of keep me sane and happy. So.
All right, the next question is about apartment hunting with a dog. Any suggestions for our pet owners? I know at least Ivy is a pet owner, but any other pet owners can talk about that.
I can tackle it if no one else has any pets. I have a beautiful pit bull. His name is Frank the Tank. He's very cute. He's very squishy. I will say definitely, well, first, usually, at least on Facebook, apartments will say if it's dog or cat friendly and or if there is a size requirement, because that also can happen. And then generally you can always ask if like you're inquiring with landlords and say, I have XY pet. Would that be allowed? I know that I currently live in a place that was not supposed to allow dogs, but we chatted with the landlord and Frank has great reviews from his past apartments. So they made an exception. So if you're considering any future apartments, just reach out to the landlord or talk with any future roommates, to get more information. And generally, if there's no pets allowed, they will have that information usually front and center for you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ivy. What what do you feel about how has Boston been a good place to network and be connected career-wise? This is from Claire, who's specifically going to be in SLIS. But I think it's probably a pretty good question to the entire panel for all of your programs. So whoever would like to take that. Okay. Gianna, I'll put you on the spot for that one.
I was about to say, I just feel like I haven't quite hit the networking area, and I think I will when I start my internship. I think my internship is going to be an area where that networking is going to kind of expand tremendously.
For my program, they help us find internships. So we're like in the heart of Boston, so there's a lot of like hospitals and schools and different like programs and agencies that we can like be connected with. So the school does the program that I'm in does a good job like helping us out figure out where we can be placed in network. And you network within like the hospital or if you're at a school and other agencies as well.
I'd say the same for the nursing program. They help us tremendously with finding clinicals. And honestly, once you get into one or two clinicals, you start building those connections with your preceptors and your instructors and kind of grows from there. So now I have, several preceptors or instructors numbers where I can kind of say, hey, anybody else like can kind of get me into this place or that place, and it's great. So, but they do a wonderful job of helping with clinical placements.
For SLIS specifically, I know this semester a lot of my professors have been really good about telling us that we should use them as a resource, and use them as like a reference for other positions or talk to them more about like your resume and things like that. Also just important to remember that your classmates will be your future network, and so like building connections with people while you're still in school is really important. Just knowing kind of keeping in touch where you're all going from here.
I want to mention the SLIS job, give a quick plug for the SLIS job board too. I'm not sure, Sophie, if you've used that at all to find internships.
Yes, I love SLIS Jobline. It's basically this website that's constantly updating with new employment opportunities for library, archive, and museum positions. There's a couple of other things you can look at too that you can talk to other classmates about, but SLIS Jobline has so much that's not just in the Boston area, it's everywhere. And then there's like a specific section on opportunities for current students, remote opportunities. You can kind of filter it however you want. And it's really good about posting like which jobs are active. And it's actually frequently updated, which I was worried that it wouldn't be. So it's refreshing every week at least.
I think we have time for one, maybe two more questions. And then I'll let our panelists go and we'll wrap it up. And I also want to just show people that we have a page on our Simmons website called Chat with a Current Graduate Student. So if you didn't get your question answered, there's a good chance that there is a student from the program that you're interested in on our Chat with a Current Graduate Student page. And if there's not, we can certainly be the liaison to make that connection. So just know that after tonight, we are still here and willing to kind of be the conduit to have continued conversations with our amazing students.
All right, so then I will ask the last question, which is about, meeting people, connecting people with people online. A lot of you mentioned Facebook as a resource. What electronic resources do you use? Do you search? Do you get referrals? How does that work?
I just wanted to plug through the Reef. If you email us, we actually have a whole Excel spreadsheet with all of the Facebooks and links to the Facebooks that are like, there's, I don't know, maybe 10. So if one of you doesn't mind like typing the Reef email, it's just reef@simmons.edu. Um, if you have trouble finding them, but it's usually called like Boston Housing, Boston Sublet and Housing. But I find that using those are really helpful. But we do have that if you feel like you would like to use it.
And with the contact information when we pull the deck back up to be able to get in touch with the REEF Center.
I can speak on, and sometimes in your classes, like you'll make like friends and colleagues, so like you won't be like alone. So like coming from Brockton, I feel like I was like alone at some point, but like I've made great friends and like friends that will be my like social work colleagues. So like you won't be alone in this journey. So
Yeah, I think even outside of like Facebook and things like that, like my program had like a Facebook page that we all used to like to meet each other, but then we made like our own group me account, and it was nice to like stay in contact with your classmates and everything. That helped us kind of to not only feel more connected in the program, but also to like coordinate, events or even housing. A lot of my classmates ended up rooming with each other and have been with each other since, the beginning. So it helped with kind of all those different avenues.
I'm going to make a quick plug for our students that have already enrolled. And if you haven't yet and you do plan to enroll, you'll have access to the same resource, which is on the admitted student portal, or sorry, the deposited student portal. There's a way that you can share your name, contact information, and what you're looking for. Maybe I'm looking for a roommate. Maybe I'm looking for someone to carpool. And you can choose to share it just with nursing students if you're a nursing student, or with all incoming graduate students. So just a great way to get to really to share your information before starting and start to network with future classmates. All right, we are right at the hour, but any last closing words of wisdom from our panelists that you didn't get to share that you feel would be really especially helpful as are the many folks in this room think about embarking on their graduate career and potentially relocating to Boston? Anything that they should kind of keep top of mind before we shift over to our contact information slide and let our amazing panelists go?
I would say the housing stuff, as we talked about, it might seem daunting, but you will find somewhere to live. You will find a place, and it will all work out. All the pieces will fall together, and it definitely will be worth it. In the moment, it might seem really stressful, but you'll find somewhere. And then if you need to move somewhere the next year, you'll be a pro at it. So definitely just take a deep breath through the housing process. I know my mom helped me a lot with it, just navigating everything. So just know you will find somewhere.
I would say, in terms of like academics, grad school is just, it's difficult. It's different than undergrad or other programs. It's like no matter how much someone prepares you for, it's difficult. So I would like to remember that like progress is not linear, especially in this category. It's very, it's ups and downs and everything. But as long as you keep continuing on and getting towards that final result or that final goal, you'll be perfectly fine.
and don't be afraid to ask for help. And there's a lot of help around. So yeah.
Awesome. Any words of wisdom from from my colleagues here? And then we will shift to the final slide. My colleagues have advised many, many students in their graduate student journeys.
I would just add, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any sort of questions. We're happy to answer or connect you with the right people on campus. I know there's a lot of resources that we kind of touched on pretty quickly tonight. I know it's a lot of information to absorb, so don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, well, great. Well, thank you. A really, really much gratitude expressed to our student panelists as well as my staff who joined us this evening. And we're going to go to the next slide. And as Dana mentioned, we want to help you. We want to guide you. We want to connect you with the people that can give you the information if we cannot. But the best way, if it's a housing specific question, just write housing in the subject line so we can kind of just make sure to get back to you and know that it's a housing specific question. What we've done is it's kind of hard to see because, but I think if we could even just drop the email addresses in, but be in touch with your with the program specific or school specific rather email for the program you're looking into, and we'll circle back to you and support you with housing questions or anything else really about embarking on your journey at Simmons. Kate, do you want to talk a little bit about the best way to get in touch with the REEF Center? Oh, did we lose Kate? We might have lost Kate. So that information is here as well. I will mention one more thing. If you'd like to come to campus before you begin courses, we'd love to host you, to sit in on a class, to go on a tour, to meet with a faculty member, to hang out with us. All of those things are great and possible, and we'd love to be able to coordinate that. You can do that by going to the Meet With Us page on the graduate admission page, which we can pop right in, and you can sign up for a tour or signal that you're interested in a class visit. I will say that classes start to wind down in May as finals and graduation approaches. So April's kind of the prime time to schedule a visit. So we hope to see many of you on campus, either before September or come September when your program starts. Thank you again for your time this evening. We hope this was helpful, and we hope to continue the conversation if we weren't able to get to your question. Thank you.